We got Fresh Jennings.
Okay.
We got Jawan Jennings on Instagram. And he has pulled the post that he put up yesterday, or maybe it was an IG story, so it just decided to come on down. Remember what the post said yesterday. Yesterday, and this coincided with the trade request from Brandon Aiyuk, Jawan Jennings, you got to be a different type of person to act like you're doing everything by yourself, knowing dang well you're not. That was on Jawan Jennings' Instagram story yesterday. It's not
right
there.
After the news broke, right?
It's not there anymore, but I'll tell you what is. Never would I diss my brother, Brandon Aiyuk. Broski, a made man. Followed up, what's wrong with the internet? I promise, the little @ symbol, would have followed after my statement if I was talking about a specific person. In other words, I'd have tagged him. I'd have just tagged him. No, you wouldn't.
Well,
no, you wouldn't.
No,
you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do it because that actually, if you had done that, that would have been an even bigger story than Brandon requesting a trade itself. Like, that would have been mano a mano between two 49er wide receivers.
Does he go on to elaborate as to what he was talking about with his vague tweet?
He does not.
Okay. There you go. So and I used to get accused of vague booking on Facebook back when Facebook was new and fresh, and you put something on Facebook on your status that is really equally vague as that, clearly pointed at someone, but defined by nothing. And so when you do that, it's open to interpretation. And you know what that makes this? It makes it an interpretation sensation.
Sensation, it does.
And so I get to interpret. I'm struggling. I'm all fueled up on chocolate donuts.
You got to interpretate. That's what you got to do.
You got to do that.
You got to do that.
So I get to do that. And so I get to look at his social media and interpret it the way I want.
Yeah, absolutely. So and so, we all get to move on in life. Whether you believe Jawan yesterday, believe Jawan today, neither, both, whatever, you're all allowed to do that. We're all allowed to do that. And it doesn't really change. Like, that hit me yesterday, for sure. If teammates are upset, this certainly brings into question, was Jawan upset? Is he trying to walk it back? Are there other teammates who are upset? Remember, now, I've said this already, a major concern for me, for the 49ers. It's two things, but they're linked. So maybe it's just one thing. But the first word I'd use is money. Just flat out money. Think of how often this has been a subject for the 49ers this offseason, all flanked by the idea that Brock Purdy is going to need to get paid. You had Christian McCaffrey on the down low, needing a reworked contract. You had Kyle Juszczyk rework his contract without anyone knowing and then come out later and be like, it really upset me, but I love it here, so we did it. And then you've got the Brandon situation. He's not the only one. Charvarius Ward publicly, got to play well this year, got to go get another bag. Already got one bag, need another bag. And what happens is the 49ers are so good, and they've got so many good players at every position, and I blame none of them for wanting to get paid. But I also understand corporate politics, timing, and in certain ways, you get to make a choice as an employee if you're truly free, which Brandon is not. Charvarius Ward will be after this year. If you're truly free, you are free to make that choice. And when a company comes to you and says, look, we think the world of you, but at the same time, here's our current situation. And so we're going to need to work together to both see you, but you need to see us. And if we can't work together on that, then we're not going to work together anymore. And I don't think that's unfair. I get it. We want to side with the players. The contracts aren't guaranteed. Normally, I would go on that side as well. This isn't siding with ownership. It's simply understanding that the 49ers are in a spot, and if you want to still be a part of it, you can, and if you don't, you won't.
It's a situation.
Yeah, Kyle Juszczyk chose to stay.
Right.
For less money.
And he didn't really have much of a choice because there aren't a lot of teams that use a fullback. And so when you're at that point in your career and he's into his 30s and he knows that winning is more important than an extra $500,000 or whatever, and you're a fullback, and so you don't have the same amount of flexibility. You're Brandon Aiyuk, and this is your first real swing at the big bag, and you look around the league and you see what everyone else is getting, and you think, all right, I want to get what they have. I want what all these other players are getting. Jalen Waddle, I want more. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I want to live in that neighborhood. And the Niners come to you with an offer that, I don't know if disrespectful is the way I describe it. $26 million a year doesn't feel like a diss, but if you're Brandon Aiyuk and you look at the year you had, and we had TJ Hushmanzada on the show, somebody who works very closely with Brandon Aiyuk, and he talked about how Brandon wants to get paid, and he wants to get paid what he deserves to be paid, and that's just the way that's going to go. And if you are Brandon Aiyuk, you're not willing to, at this point, yield and give in to a contract that you don't think is fair. You don't think that it is befitting your skill set. Yeah, you want to be a Niner, and he's never shown anything. I know he had the doghouse stint or whatever. That's part of the evolution of a player. But beyond that, Brandon Aiyuk has been a great 49er. He goes out there and he balls out. He's one of the best receivers in the league, and he just wants to get paid.
Understood.
And it doesn't matter, and it wouldn't matter to me what Brock Purdy is going to get or Mooney Ward or anybody else. It's about him, the player. Everything else, that's on you guys to deal with.
I understand that, but where I think people go wrong in this one is in life. This happens all the time. Every time it's time for you to go talk to your job, I think it is incumbent on you, the employee, the person, the human being. You have got to understand your leverage. You have to understand it. You can want the respect. We all do. We all do. We all want our company to come to us at that moment and go, oh my God, we're bleeped without you. I don't know what we would do. We all want our general manager to say about us what Mike Dunleavy said about Steph Curry 3 days ago, where he goes, whatever the hell he wants. Whatever he wants, he gets. And all we want in life is for him to never leave. We'd love that. Do you know how many people get that?
Very few.
Next to none.
Yep.
And Brandon does not, in my opinion, understand his leverage in this situation.
He probably is overplaying his leverage.
He's got none.
His leverage is he can ruin the season. And that's...
I don't even think he can do that.
See, I think he...
I know you do. I know you think the Niners are not a Super Bowl contender without him.
They're not.
I disagree with that. But
and you and I had a discussion about Ricky Pearsall, and you even said, rookies don't step on the field.
Usually not.
And produce, and you're right. And I fought back on that, thinking that, Puka Nacua did it, and they didn't go to the Super Bowl. So for me, if you go with Pearsall and Debo and Jawan, you're not a Super Bowl team. That's just my opinion.
That's fine.
That, for me, would be Brandon Aiyuk's only leverage, and it's negative leverage. So the only piece of leverage you have is I can ruin your year. It's kind of like what you talked about, and I live with a toddler, and she's 2, and she can single-handedly ruin a day. And I don't think she thinks about it like that.
I would think not.
I mean,
but I bet she has.
Sometimes
I bet she's ruined a day.
But there are days that can be ruined based on her tantrums, her petulance, and the rest of it. So if you're Brandon Aiyuk, your only leverage is, I can make things miserable for you.
To what end?
To the end where, what
do you get out of that?
Well, it's not what he gets, but it makes it so that the team would be motivated to make this work because they don't want to ruin this year. And he could make his holdout, like going into camp right now. What are the big camp stories? While Pearsall's on the injured, I can't play list, whatever, he'll be fine.
I think he's going to be fine.
Other than that, what are the stories? How's Dre Greenlaw's recovery? Brandon Aiyuk's contract.
Yeah,
that's the story.
Of course.
And the team doesn't want that. They don't want this to be the story into August, into September.
Yeah, but sometimes you deal with small things that you don't want to win the larger prize.
Yep.
Listen, we've all watched the 49ers operate for the last few years. You could actually call this a fault of theirs if you want, and I get it, but the bottom line is they ain't caving. They don't.
Well, they caved to Bosa.
Well, but you could argue that. Yeah, you could argue that. But even with him, they waited until there was a game in 72 hours. You're not going to win this fight. Like, they drafted a receiver in the first round. They did it again in the fourth round. The 49ers, the Nick Bosa thing, the only thing that changed there, because they said all offseason, we've set aside money for Nick. There's no option 2. We're keeping Nick. Did it get a little more expensive than they wanted? Sure. They'll survive. But what's the planning that you're watching the 49ers do for this? I would argue all year long, the 49ers have had one leg on both sides of the fence. We want to pay Brandon, but if he doesn't want to take what we're offering, we got another option.
We did a whole week of shows about will they trade him on draft night.
Right.
And I thought that they were going to, and they didn't. And so he's still here, but he's still unsigned. So you're right. They have kind of played both sides of this. And when you have Nick Bosa, you're not going to be a top 3 drafting team to get a replacement for Nick Bosa anytime soon. So that gives Bosa the leverage because you can't find a Nick Bosa as easily as you can find a Brandon Aiyuk.
Well, and Nick Bosa didn't say a damn word. And so more on that in a second because I think it's important. You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco on Odyssey Sports Station. Always live on the free Odyssey app. Twitch and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union for a low-rate auto loan. Apply online or just ask for First NorCal Financing at the dealer. We're going to go to the phones in just a second, but I want to make this comparison. Okay, let's say that on your way home today, maybe you and the wife have had a little bit of an argument, or maybe it's just been a rough month for a bunch of reasons. Who knows? And you're like, you know what? I'm gonna go stop and get some flowers.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say I'm gonna request a trade.
I think we've done that enough. Anyway, you're on your way home, you get some flowers. Okay? 15 minutes before you arrive at home, you get a phone call, and it's your wife. She's upset. Who knows why? Whatever. Kid's having a hard day. She's tired. She's got a headache. Who knows? And while those flowers are sitting next to you in the passenger seat, she goes, you know what? You never bring me flowers.
Ain't it the truth?
You never bring me flowers, and it makes me mad. How come you never do something for me out of the goodness of your heart? Now, how you feeling about giving her those flowers that are sitting right next to you?
The window gets rolled down, and those flowers get thrown onto the street.
And that's what Brandon just did.
Threw the flowers in the street?
So Nick Bosa didn't do that, and I'd argue Debo did it in a much different way that allowed the flowers to still be given. So did George Kittle. Christian McCaffrey. We're sitting here. Is this a holdout? I don't even know if it's a holdout. It might be a holdout. And then when do we find out that it's a holdout? When it's already done.
Yeah.
But Brandon just made it impossible for the 49ers, who also have an ego and books to match. He made it impossible for them to just be like, okay, here's your $28 million because you got mad on the internet. It doesn't work that way. And you make it harder for the people around you to do what they may want to do for you when you go, you know what? I'm going to TikTok. Hey, Jaden, get on Zoom. We're going to make a TikTok. Oh, for crying out loud.
Also, Mark, he's made it harder on himself now to accept anything short of what he reportedly is asking for. So now, if you're Brandon Aiyuk, you can't take $26 million, in my opinion, if that's already been offered.
Good point.
So now you're going to have to at least get 26.5 or whatever the incremental step up is, because you've folded your arms and you've thrown your tantrum and you've stamped, and that's it. I need more. Trade me. And the team laughs, and the Andrew Brandt tweet is hilarious about, oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
See you in camp. And if he doesn't go to camp, then the team's going to have a chance to find him, or maybe they won't find him, and they didn't find Bosa, but they can't find me if they didn't find Nick. And so now it becomes even more of a line in the sand to where if Brandon Aiyuk is going to go through all these measures, TikTok and Jaden Daniels, and now I want to be traded, and then maybe he won't go to camp, and then it gets into August and all the rest of it. It makes it harder for him to then take what they've already offered.
One thing I've noticed in the NFL, and this doesn't work, like we've spent so much time in this town talking about what are the Warriors owe Steph, and Steph's in control, and LeBron's in control in LA, and he tells you who to draft and who to sign, and this happens in the NBA. That don't happen in the NFL. And if it does, we're talking about 1, 2, maybe 3 quarterbacks, period. Nobody else. NFL teams are like, I'm sorry, what? Do you think you're in control here? Like, it just doesn't operate that way. It's not part of the culture. It's part of the fact that there's like 60 players on a team. And it's
non-guaranteed deals.
Non-guaranteed deals and the physicality. Again, this is too risky. This is too risky, Ryan Williams, Brandon's agent. You are playing a game that is too risky. Your risk reward right now is all off. It's all off. You're playing with $100 million of Brandon's future money, and there's a scenario right here where he makes almost none of it, and you're playing it. That's exactly how you're playing it. So this isn't me being anti-player. I'm not telling Brandon he's supposed to take less. He's allowed to do this however he wants to do it. But I'm going to be the parent in the room and let him know that if he asked my opinion, dude, you're playing a risk-reward game that's not in your benefit. It does not benefit your life, your career, your health. As a fourth-year player or 4 years in the books, how much has he made in his career? $12 million?
About that, I'm sure.
Okay,
yeah.
I'll look it up. Like, you've got somebody sitting there with an offer that's going to go north of $100 million for the next, like your life is made. They want to make your life. And you want to risk that for respect. Boy, I know a lot of people who make that decision, and it don't work. It does not work. TJ in the city, you're on with Willard and Dibs. Hey, TJ, thank you for calling. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. It was a nice show. Appreciate the show. I listen every morning. Validating everything you guys are saying, man. It's pretty much spot on. I love Brandon Aiyuk first and foremost. He's a dog. He wouldn't have got where he got last year without him. But at the same time, it's a team sport. And I also stand with Juwan Jennings. I feel like everybody was able to take a little bit of a pay cut if necessary just to chase that end goal, that Super Bowl. So I hope he's able to, work everything out. We able to sign him, get him back on the roster and stuff. But I just really not so much about the money situation. I think it's just the way he's going about it. Like you say, Nick Bosa didn't say too much. He kept quiet, signed on. We had Duke, got to work. So I'm hoping, Brandon stops all of these crazy antics. He can get back to work in the kitchen. We can get back to cooking. But if not, man, me and Juwan might have to put him in the headlock, get him to sign this deal or come to a sentence or something, man. We need to get back cooking in the kitchen, though. But that's all I want to say. I appreciate the show, guys.
TJ, thank you, man.
Thank you, TJ.
Yeah,
Catch us 2 to 6. I appreciate you listening every morning.
Yeah. Well,
no, it's great. I think it's awesome that he listens.
we're here to say hi to some new people.
That's the whole thing.
And then
we're here to make them join us in the afternoon.
And make them change their entire work schedule and commute so that they will listen to us from 2 to 6.
Just keep listening in the morning, but add us to your afternoon flow.
Absolutely.
And I love that. And thank you, TJ.
I'm always interested when people are like, I only listen in the afternoon or I only listen in the morning. I'm like, if you go to work, don't you go home?
Exactly.
Or if you go home, don't you go to work again the next day? What's the matter with you? Anyway.
It's a little bit odd. Anyway, I do like what he was saying, though, about just, Ayuk's a dog, and I think he speaks to a lot of Niner fans like, let's just get this done. And that's why I think that maybe it's not leverage, but the power in what Brandon's trying to do is to make Niner fans nervous and to make the Niners themselves nervous. But as you mentioned, Parag Marathe, the finance guy with the Niners, he doesn't usually do nervous. It's kind of not his thing.
They are not nervous. They are not nervous.
Fans are nervous.
Of course.
Fans want him in, and like TJ just said, just get in here and let's just start cooking.
But you understand, and I know you do, like we're the pawns here. Ryan Williams and Brandon Aiyuk are using us to try to get to the 49ers because it's their only play, and it's not a good one. It's not a leverage play. But like TikTok and Instagram and Mike Garafolo, those things aren't pointed at the 49ers. They're pointed at us. What Brandon and Ryan Williams are hoping is that we freak out. Oh, my God. Come on, 49ers, you got to do something. There's a Super Bowl to win. You can't play with this.
He wants to be traded, Mark. He's requested to be traded. What does it mean? What can they get back? Aiyuk on the move. That's a
really good question, Mark.
You need to bury that.
Thank you very much.
Roxy
I'm
Bernstein.
so glad that he used my name. That's so great.